At UFC 321. He gets a very anticipated fight against Umar Nurmagomedov. It is always my great pleasure to catch up with Mario Bautista. Mario, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
So Mario, it's funny. We talked after the Patchy mix win, huge win for you, and I brought it up, and I know you talked about it. You were not super happy you didn't get that post fight interview, but I know in all the subsequent interviews, and we did one, you said I really wanted that Umar Nurmagomedov fight. So it didn't work out the way you wanted with the post fight interview, but you got the fight you wanted. So I imagine you were happy when you got that call.
Yeah, no, I'm still glad I got to put it out there, and we ended up getting that fight. So either way, it worked out, with or without that post-fight interview. So I was happy with it.
I know it kind of feels like because you had this just workman like attitude, got in there and fight whoever they put you in there with, just like Patchy Mix coming in out of Bellator PFL, debuting guy, you didn't blink, you didn't turn it down, didn't you say I want a different guy, I want a ranked guy, whatever. You went in there and fought, beat him. You've not walked an easy path. You've not gone out there and made the biggest noise and said I'm gonna get a title shot after one fight or two fights. I think this is what 9 fights in a row. So, like, were you happy that you were able to at least this time call your shot? Because it feels like this is the fight that's going to get you to that title shot.
Yeah, calling that shot and then also just being on an eight fight win streak. Like, what else are they going to give me? You can't like give me no one below me. So you just have to start respecting like what I've been doing in this division. I've being able to put together this win streak. So for them, to give me Umar and to set that up, you know, um, I'm just excited. I'm grateful. I finally get this opportunity, and I feel great right now. I got a ton of experience, in those fights. So leading up to this, I feel pretty confident.
We know the story or kind of like the history of that camp, the Nurmagomedov camp, where it feels like for a while there guys weren't really calling them out. And then, they get to the top of the sport, and then of course you're going to call him out. Like Islam's a champ, of course you're going to call him out. Khabib's a champ, of course you're going to call him out. And it kind of felt like Umar, but Umar kind of got a fast rise. Like he was fighting a lot of guys you not really heard of, not big names, and then boom, he got Corey Sandhagen out of nowhere. And to his credit, he won that fight, and of course he got the title fight. You were one of the guys who called him out, though. I don't hear a lot of people calling out Umar. Being honest, I'm not going to name names, but there are a lot of bantamweights I've not heard call Umar's name. So, was it that in your mind, like, I'm going to call out the guy no one wants to fight and also the clearest path to a title shot? Or kind of like give me your motivation of picking him out of the hat, so to speak?
Well, I think at the time I was looking at the rankings and everyone was booked up, and so that only left I think like a couple people that were ahead of me at that time. It might have been like Cejudo. And I think after I beat Patchy, I was just, that's in the past kind of thing. And so what's going to be the fight that gives me the title shot if I beat this guy? And it was Umar. He just had lost to Merab, and so it just made sense to me. And Merab proved that Umar is not like unstoppable. He's not this he's not like that Khabib kind of like style. I'm not saying he's not good or anything. I think he's a great fighter and he has everything to be the champ. But I think Merab definitely put a blueprint out there, and so that's the fight that made sense for me and the fastest way to a title shot, I believe.
Yeah. Can I ask, like, in preparation, obviously you saw the Merab fight. I assume you probably seen the Corey Sandhagen fight as well. And I know when I talked to Corey after that fight, before he fought Devison Figueiredo, he had said, like, he kind of got in his own head. Like, he's like, I was so conscious of the takedowns that I think I didn't really deploy my own game plan. I was just trying to, like, counter his wrestling. And he's like, like, he was mad at himself that he didn't do it. Now, Merab, you could argue lost a couple of rounds early, but then just took over. He just outworked him and outpaced him and started taking him down. And it was just a really impressive performance. So I'm just kind of curious, like, because those are the two highest level fights he's had is Corey and Merab. And obviously you've been fighting a lot of the top 10 guys. So I'm just curious in those two fights, like, what did you learn without giving away secrets, but like, what did you learn about Umar in those fights?
Uh, well, I guess in the Merab fight, from what I've seen, if you really set a high pace, he tends to kind of fade at the end. And then again, that's Merab too, So I think anyone that might happen with anyone. So we kind of seen that, and then also in that Sandhagen fight, I thought Sandhagen won the first, you know, probably the first two rounds, maybe Umar started taking over in those later rounds. So those are things I kind of look at, leading into this fight, so just start off, have a good high pace right off the bat, and just try to break him, just try to break his will, and that's what I go out there and try to do. I just set a high pace. I go out there and fight, and then whatever happens, happens. It's a roll of the dice out there. So, but I'm fully prepared. So, I'm excited to go out there.
Knowing what this fight means, and what I mean by that is you win, you get a title shot. Was there any small part of you like that wanted a 5 round fight with Umar just to like get that experience, or were you okay with the 3 rounds?
No, I definitely wanted the 5 rounds. There was talks of us fighting, doing the main event in Vancouver, and I was excited about that. I wanted to do the 5 rounds, to kind of get that, you know, get that feel for it, before I start, talking about a title and whatnot. But it's just funny how things work out. So we're down to 3 rounds, and if I get a title shot off of this, and it's my first, 5 rounds, you know, I believe I'm a 5 round fighter, so I don't think I'll have any problem doing it. It's just gonna be against Merab, So I don't know. We'll see. I'll be fully prepared for it. I know it.
You got to fight, so I guess it really doesn't matter. But can I ask, like, when you got word? And I think I understand. Like Umar is, that part of the world, Abu Dhabi, is very popular. I know, Islam's been over there a lot of times. Did you ever hear a reason why it didn't end up in Vancouver? Because I think I heard the same rumor. I remember hearing that before they announced RDR and what it was originally going to be Fluffy Hernandez. I'd heard that you guys were in line for that main event, and then you get shifted to basically a week later to Abu Dhabi. So did you ever hear like why you didn't get the main event versus Abu Dhabi?
Uh, no, but I'm just thinking that it was just going to do better over there. I think he's like a bigger draw over there. And so I'm thinking that that was going to be the issue. And just like the whole main card for that Vancouver, it was like there's supposed to be someone else that was supposed to headline it. Something fell through, so it was just all kind of wacky. But I think over there they know that it's just gonna, he's gonna do good over there as far as bringing, numbers over there.
Now you're in a way like you're not going. I know he's from Dagestan. You're not going to technically his hometown, but as I mentioned, like there's a big fan base for guys like Umar and Islam. They've had a growing. I know they trained over there. I know Usman had a camp in Dubai and things like that. Were there not to say nerves, but like any hesitation to kind of step in there because we do see sometimes the crowds can affect. I always remember the fight between Diego Sanchez and Martin Kampman years ago in Louisville. I always remember being there, and Diego's a very popular guy, and every time he'd throw a punch, the crowd would roar. And I was sitting cage side, and I'm not trying to insult the guy, but I felt like he missed like 90% of his punches, but because he was throwing and the crowd was reacting, I was like, I think that affected judging. Like, he ended up winning a split decision or something, which was a horrible decision. Was there any nerve about going into kind of his backyard, or were you like, hey, I don't care, I'm getting the fight I want?
No, I didn't really care about that, because I know the judging over there. I think they bring guys, I don't know, a commission from Vegas or something. So I think it'll be fair. In the crowd over there, I don't believe they get too hyped up and too crazy. But you know, if it does go into a decision, I just want it to be like clear that I won. So if anything weird happens, uh, it's blatant. So I just go out there and I expect to just get my hand raised, dominate with no questions asked, even try to get a finish. If I get a finish, then that doesn't even matter. And that just puts a stamp on everything for me to get a title shot. So no, that didn't really bug me. Just the only thing that was, I guess concerning, I think I'm just being a little baby about it. It's just the time difference, having to adjust, which I think I can. If it turns out where I just got to stay up later and fix it that way, I could totally do that. But if I have to wake up earlier, yeah, I'm going to be in a bad mood that whole time.
Now I know every fight and every fighter is different, but when you were going in there against Patchy Mix in your last fight, everyone, there and rightfully so, there was a lot of hype around Patchy. I said this, right before his last fight. I said, man, I would argue with just about anybody. He was one of the top bantamweights in the world, like he absolutely was. And then you come in there and everyone's like, his grappling, his submissions, and you just completely shut him down. Like he just never got anything going. It was a very dominant performance for you from start to finish. You heard him several times. He just could not get anything going against you. Now we know Umar is an incredible wrestler. No one's going to doubt he's an incredible wrestler. But I do feel like sometimes when guys fight that kind of style, they fight so defensively they forget to be offensive. You know what I mean? So like how prepared are you for that part of the game? Like knowing that there's a probably a better than average chance Umar's going to try to take you down, he's going to try to wrestle you, and not allowing that to affect who you are as a fighter. Like you got to be ready for it, but you do. I know you know what I'm talking about. Some guys go out there and it's like a deer in the headlights. They may stop takedowns, but then they're like, oh yeah, I also have to punch this guy.
Yeah. No, I don't think I have a problem with it, because that's like the same kind of camp I had leading into that Patchy fight, the same thing. I'm like, yep, we're gonna be on the ground for sure, this and that, but I'm not gonna let it stop me from doing anything. And that's exactly what I did. It turns out, he just didn't even shoot, so I just was more offensive than anything. But I still have that same kind of like that feel leading into this fight. I know this fight will end up on the ground. We're gonna end up in some takedown exchanges, some wrestling exchanges. I'm fully prepared for that. But you know, I'm just not the type of person that's gonna, let it stop me from my game plan. So yeah, I'm fully prepared just to go out there and do my thing.
I know none of this probably matters to you, Mario, because you're just getting ready for a fight. But I've had this conversation with other people, and I even talked to Merab Dvalishvili's coach about this. Yeah, because Merab's been so busy this year. He beat Umar. Obviously, had the rematch with Sean, and then he just went out and beat Corey Sandhagen. And now they're talking about Peter Yan. He's kind of getting that stage where it's going to be rematches, right? Like he's got Peter Yan already as a rematch. And I asked the question to his coach. I said, "Is there a world where you're kind of rooting for Mario because?" If Umar wins, they're right back to where they were. They literally just fought him in January. And I think a lot of people kind of have their eyes saying if Mario wins, like we get a fresh new fight, we get a new matchup because and I like Corey Sandhagen, by the way, I'm being clear about this, but Corey got a title shot off one win off Devison because there just wasn't anybody else out there. So is there any part that feels like you not only can beat Umar, but you kind of give this division what it needs, which is a new challenger, because we're kind of in that realm now where if it's not you, it's going to be a lot of rematches.
Yeah, no, I've been seeing that a lot lately, and then just looking at the landscape of things. Yeah, um, I get, and I want that not only for myself, but yeah, for the division. Because, like I said, if I just have like such a great performance, I think that kind of bypasses the Peter Yan the rematch because we've already seen that, and just like you're saying, then it'd be rematch with Umar, it'd be a rematch. Corey could still be up in the area. Um, so yeah, I think it'd just be exciting not only for me, but for the fans as well, and just to get some just different momentum going in this division, and setting up different fights. So yeah, I guess I mean I don't feel any pressure, but there's something to that. I could definitely change the landscape of things with a win.
And it's kind of funny you mentioned like when Umar fought Merab, you kind of like Merab showed like he's not this unstoppable force of nature. Like he went out there and proved it. And like I think Merab's kind of got that same aura right now, right? Where it's like, man, what can you do to stop this guy? So would that be is that like the perfect scenario if you can go out and beat Umar and show like, hey, this guy isn't unbeatable, and then you get a guy against Merab who also has looked kind of like the same kind of thing, like this guy's unstoppable. It's like the perfect 1-2 combo for your career. Not only that, but obviously getting a title shot.
Yeah, no, no, no. It'd be amazing, get a win over Umar. The only other person that's done that is Merab, and so that would be definitely the best of the best going at it for the title. So yeah, and it'd be the same kind of mindset leading into that fight, into that Merab fight. And yeah, it would just be a great experience from Patchy. It's same kind of feel to this Umar fight, same kind of feel, and that'd be just the perfect lineup leading into the Merab fight.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. I get it. Like Merab wants to break the record. He wants to set the record for title defenses in a year. I think that's cool. It's an awesome thing. But I'm just like curious, like how excited would people just be to see him fight Peter again? Like I think Peter Yan's fantastic, but how if you rewatch the first fight, how really excited would you be to watch that second one? Kind of. I think that's kind of like the general feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'd be a great fight. Like for the diehard fans, you get to see that fight again. But it doesn't change anything. I mean, if Peter wins, then they could give an immediate rematch to Marab. Who knows what happens with me and Umar? They could give a match up Umar and Peter. I guess that could work out a little bit. Uh, Either way, I think just a lot depends on me getting this W.
And I know that like because you're a softer spoken guy, you're not a trash talker, and I appreciate you're always genuine to who you are. But it does kind of feel like you're going to have to work harder in a way. And I think I mentioned this when I talked to Marab's coach. like, and I know he said this to me. He's like, I think Merab has a lot of respect for a guy like Mario Bautista because you kind of followed a similar path as Merab. Remember, Merab had to go on a ridiculous winning streak to finally get his title shot. When it looked like he should have gotten it, they had him fight another one. He had to wait. So, like, in a way, it feels like it is kind of almost destiny for you to fight a guy like Merab because you guys have kind of walked a similar path where nothing got handed to you. You had to continue to put together a great win streak. And that would be pretty remarkable for you to go into a fight Merab on like a 9-fight win streak. And I think he's on like 11 or 12 or whatever it is. So, I mean, that's a pretty, I don't know how many times in history we've had that kind of fight.
Yeah, I feel like Merab had to go on a 9 fight win streak to actually get the title shot. So, with a win over Umar, I hope Merab looks at that and, kind of sees, himself in me and okay, he definitely deserves this and we could work that out. And then also, yeah, putting those winning streaks on the line because then I believe I would be tied with Aljo at that point for the longest win streak. And then Marab has the highest win streak right now in the division. So we'd be, pitting those against each other to find out who's the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, listen, to be clear, I know your focus is only Umar Nurmagomedov and beating him coming up, in a couple of weeks. But can I ask Mario, like when you watch a guy like Merab and you watch him against Corey, a guy you fought early in your UFC career, do you feel like there's an excitement about potentially getting a title fight against a guy like that? Because much like Umar, he has this air of like invincibility right now, right? Like it's like, what can you do to beat this guy? And now, and Merab had a couple losses early in his career in the UFC. I mean, it's really ridiculous how similar the past you guys have walked. You had a couple
Right.
losses. Now you go on these streaks, but like, do you feel like there is like that aura around him right now? But that's the kind of challenge you want. Like you want to show like he's not invincible, he's not unbeatable.
Yeah, no, that's an exciting challenge to me. I'm not, being cocky or anything like that, but I would definitely find out a lot about myself leading into that fight and being in that fight. And, if it's just exciting to me. It's just a great challenge. You get to find out who you are, and I know who I am, and to bring the best out of me. I think that'd be definitely guys like Umar, guys like Marab. Just these top guys. So I would be super excited for that fight.
And I know we had this conversation after the Jose Aldo fight that like not every fight is going to be a barn burner. Not every fight is going to give you an opportunity to get for a knockout. And the reality is when you're in a fight, there's two in there. It's not just on you to make for an exciting kind of knockdown drag out fight. But when you look at Umar stylistically, just like you did with Patchy Mix, where you went out there and everyone's like, "Oh, what's this going to look like?" Patchy's been so good, such a good run, and you just shut him down and you dominated that fight. Is there any part that feels like you could do the same kind of thing to Umar, whether you finish him or you just, it ends up being a 30-27 decision? Like, do you feel like there is a world where this isn't a close fight? This isn't a dog fight. This isn't a battle. Like, this is a fight where you can go out and dominate and or finish a guy like Umar Nurmagomedov.
Oh, there's definitely a possibility for that. You just never know until you get into these fights. I had like 100 different ways that fight with Patchy would go. Just a dog fight, scrambles here and there, fighting him off my back, getting out of darces and this and that, and it just turns out to be just like a little boxing match. And I ran away with that W. So there's that possibility. And I'm prepared for the worst. I'm always prepared for the worst, and then hoping for the easiest fight.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you right now, Mario, you go out and beat Umar Nurmagomedov. If they don't give you a post-fight interview, we riot. I'm just saying that we just completely riot at that point. They better give you the post-fight interview at that point.
Yeah, we're gonna have to light the torches and go crazy. Yep.
I feel like that's a foregone conclusion though, because that's obviously such a featured bout on there, man. There's two title fights, but it feels like if you don't get one right, then there's a conspiracy going on.
There is. Don't give Mario a post-fight interview. That's a conspiracy.
But obviously, and I think I have an idea what you'll be calling for if everything goes well. You beat Umar Nurmagomedov. I think we know what's going to be involved in that post fight interview.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, for both of us. Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Well, Mari, I'm glad you got this fight, man. I was so excited when I heard this was coming together. I know this is the one you wanted, and it makes perfect sense. Like I said, Umar's just coming off the title fight. I think he's deservedly got a lot of hype around him, and obviously you being on this win streak, I think this is the perfect fight to make. And I do credit you for like calling for this, and I'm glad they listened, they gave it to you, and I think that the stage is set, man. You go out there and do your thing, you win. It's got to be title fight. There is no other. Literally, there is no other option right now.
Yeah, no, there isn't. There's no other fight. 9 fight win streak. Just beat the last guy, who I guess Corey fought Merab, but you know what I mean. And nothing else makes sense.
100%. Well, Mario, I can't wait. I love this matchup. I'm glad we got to talk. And after you get your post-fight interview, come back. We'll do another interview.
Of course, Damon. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Mario. We'll talk after the fight.
Yes, sir.